Welcome, everybody. This is The Highlight. I'm Ron Carson, your host, and today I'm here with one of my favorite guests I think I've had so far. This is my Uncle Rick. Y'all might know him as Richard Dunn. He's a journalist, father, mentor to many. Used to serve on the school board.
I didn't serve on school. I worked for the school system.
Sorry.
That's okay. I was on the board of elections.
Yeah, there we go. Worked in the school system. Weren't you the grad coach?
I was a graduation coach coordinator. When I went to work for the school district, the graduation rate was like around 60%. When I left, we had it up over to 85.
Right.
Yeah.
Wow. That's a big goal.
Yeah.
Big goal. So yeah, my Uncle Rick, he's been in media and journalism in Athens for a long time. A lot of you I'm pretty sure you've known him or ran into him. But yeah, I just wanted to have him come on the show, speak to some of the things he's experienced, what's going on today, as far as just media and his organization. So Uncle Rick, thanks for joining us, man. I appreciate your time.
My pleasure, nephew.
Yeah, no problem, man. No problem. Tell me a little bit what's going on in your life today.
Well, after retiring before I retired from the school district, I started a nonprofit organization called the Athens County High School Completion Initiative. The work that I was doing in the school system helped me see that what we were doing as a school district wasn't enough to prepare kids for life beyond high school. So we developed this nonprofit organization and created programs that would not only help children get through high school, but better prepare them for life beyond high school. And so the HSCI, as we like to call it, is an umbrella organization for Education Matters radio show, which we've been doing for 15 years now, where we've trained kids how to be radio broadcasters. And they produce a weekly show that airs on WXAG. Then we created our own internet radio station, MEU Radio Athens. That's MEUradioathens.com. Because we felt that just 1 hour a week on WXAG still wasn't giving the kids enough opportunity to have a voice. Right. 2-3 years ago, we created a program called Education Matters Youth Reporters, where we work with youth between grades 3 and 8. We're teaching them the journalism skills, and we're driving home the 5 W's and the H of journalism: the who, what, why, when, where, and when and how of journalism. We're driving it into his and helping them understand that if they use those concepts with everything they read and write, they will become better readers and writers. And, Clark County has some dismal numbers when it comes to kids and their ability to read. We just finished this year's session. Our goal was for 70% of the kids that are in our program to show some growth in their ability to read from when they take the standardized tests in the fall and finish the year in the spring. Well, this year, 83% of the kids met that goal for us, or for themselves, really.
Congratulations.
Thank you. And then this year, we launched a new program called Athens Pupils, where we're teaching youth how to be news journalists, do video. Right. So we're putting together I like to call it a news magazine that airs on our YouTube channel, Education Matters Network.
Right. So I got where you're at now. I kind of want to go back a little bit. What made you want to be a journalist? What made you want to start telling stories?
Oh, my gosh. That started for me in high school.
Okay.
I grew up in Washington, D.C. And when I was a teenager, the gang problem was just beginning to surface in D.C. And we got invited to be on a TV show called Harambe. And this was back in 1968, 69. Harambe was the only Black produced TV show on the CBS channel in DC, WTOP. And just being there, being interviewed by people that look like me, and just watching everything that was going on all around, all the cameras, the lights, just the whole thing. And kind of like you, and I had already been exposed to photography, and I liked photography, and that's somehow just saw the connection, and I was smitten from that moment of being on that show.
Mm-hmm.
I was smitten. Yeah,
Smitten, y'all. You got me. And so you got in high school.
Mm-hmm.
You're about to go to college now. Where'd you go to school?
Coming out of high school, I went to Ohio University in Athens, Ohio.
Oh wow!
And majored in journalism.
Okay.
My freshman year was spent there. Before I went to college, I was in the Upward Bound program at Howard University.
Okay.
And there was an Upward Bound program at Ohio U. And so the people in D.C. connected me with the people up there. So at least when I got up there, I would know somebody.
Right.
And the director of the program at Ohio U told me about an internship opportunity here in Athens, Georgia, at UGA at the public TV station, Channel 8, that was housed at the Georgia Center.
Mm-hmm.
So I applied for the internship and got accepted and came to Athens, Georgia in the summer of 1971 and working as an intern at that TV station. It is a long story.
Yeah. Tell it all. Tell it all, man.
So at that time at UGA had only been integrated 10 years.
Yeah.
And so they needed black students. They were in danger of losing federal dollars. And they found out that I was on campus, and they convinced me to transfer by offering me all the financial aid that I needed.
Mm-hmm.
So my mother was raising 3 boys by herself. She didn't really have the money. We were struggling for me to go to OU. So I came to Georgia for the money. When I came to Georgia, there were 22,000 students. Only 100 of them looked like me.
Well,
yeah.
So you come here. I mean, what's the battle of that like? You felt isolated. No opportunity. What was?
I was like, what did I do to myself? Because growing up in Washington, D.C., and back in those days, D.C. was definitely known as Chocolate City because it had, we were the majority black town. So to go from that to where you just 100 out of 22,000, like what did it must, and plus it was the culture shock growing up in the metropolitan area like Washington D.C.
Yeah,
and coming into a southern South, rural, then Athens was rural.
Right.
It's like, man, I done messed up.
I mean, Charlie, came on the podcast. He had told me a situation where, they were marching up at the varsity.
Yep.
The
year I came to Athens, Georgia was the year that the Clark County School District was fully integrated. That was the year that Clark Central got black students. So they were flying Confederate flags all over the place. White kids would urinate under our doors in the dorm.
Oh, wow.
The band was the Dixie Redcoat Band.
Mm-hmm.
It was just a less than welcoming environment to be in.
Right. How do you find your way through that? In the sense
one, because it was easy for 100 people to really recognize that we need to stick together. So we developed close relationships with one another. Joining the fraternity didn't hurt, so that gave me even more support. And
go ahead and tell them where you at. Which frat?
Kappa Alpha Psi.
Yes, sir.
Day I die.
Yes, sir.
But also the relationships we built with people who worked at the University of Georgia, but were native Athenians. And those people recognized what we were going through, and they took care of us. They invited us to church. They take us home to eat. They looked out for us. And people ask me, why do I do what I do in Athens? That's because Athens loved me first. So I would do anything I can for the black people of this community. I do it for the white folks too, but it was the being embraced and protected by the black community,
right?
That helped me get through.
Right. That's definitely something that I could recognize when I was down at Savannah State. I don't think, because, part of my education was, I would say half of it was Clark County, the other half of it was private, Prince Avenue and Athens Christian. But going to Savannah State, being around that many Black people, helped me feel more of that, closeness,
Mm-hmm.
in the sense of everywhere I looked, it was Black people. At Prince Avenue, I was in a class, I might have been the only Black boy in the class, so I definitely can get that. Going, into college, what were some of the journalism things that you worked on? Because I can imagine UGA's the Grady program, I'm pretty sure it was still developing. So what was that?
Well, no,
Was
actually, even then, over 50 years ago, Grady was recognized as one of the best journalism programs in the country. In fact, after my first year at Georgia, I was going to transfer and go to Howard University. That year, Howard had just established its journalism program.
Mm-hmm.
So I went up there for spring break and went to the journalism school. And at that time, the first dean of Howard's journalism school was a gentleman by the name of Tony Brown. Tony Brown used to do shows on PBS. So he was known nationwide.
Mm-hmm.
I went and met with him and told him that I was at Georgia, but I was thinking about transferring to his school. And he said to me, I'll never forget it, he said, "You have one of the most prestigious journalism schools in the country. I don't know how my program is going to turn out. You need to stay where you are." So I stayed at Georgia because that's what he told me.
Right. Gotta love that.
Yeah. But what made the difference for me, like I said, I had an internship, came here on an internship. I was in the film department at the TV station, and I got a work-study job as part of my financial aid package.
Mm-hmm.
But there were two gentlemen who had a photography department at the Georgia Center, and my work-study job wound up being with them.
Gotcha.
And these guys photographed UGA football.
Mm-hmm.
So they started taking me to the Georgia football games to shoot pictures.
Right.
Well, the photo editor of the Red and Black saw me out there shooting with this Nikon. He figured I knew what I was doing, and he offered me a position on the Red and Black. So I was the first Black photographer for this Red Black.
Oh, wow.
And
that's awesome.
And so it just went from there.
Right.
So it was journalism and the love of the community that kept me here.
Right. I love it. You so you got your degree. Let's go past that. You graduated. You're stepping into the landscape of journalism. What's your first journalist job? Did you work somewhere? Or?
Yeah, well, actually, in was it 1975? Michael Thurman and Fred Smith made a deal with Mr. J.Lo Ware, who was the publisher of the Atlanta Voice newspaper, and we created the Athens Voice. So we started working on that, and then a year after that, Mr. Ware decided to start a paper in Tuskegee, Alabama, the Tuskegee Voice, and I became the editor of that. Worked there for 2 years, and he asked me to come to Atlanta to work with him at the Atlanta Voice. So I was the associate editor of the Atlanta Voice.
What was that like, being in Atlanta back then?
Well, it was fun. I enjoyed it. I was married. We had 2 kids. We had a good time. But the as much as I enjoyed working for the Voice and had some real journalism experiences doing it,
right?
Money wasn't the best, and so I got an opportunity to go become the National Public Communications Officer for the Southern Christian Leadership Conference. So I worked for Joe Lowry.
Oh, wow.
And I published their magazine, did a lot of speech writing, press conferences, press releases, whole 9 yards. That was a lot of fun. Yeah. And that was a lot of fun for a lot of reasons. One, because we were, a civil rights organization trying to meet the needs of our community. But two, as a kid, Dr. King was my hero.
Right.
And so to be able to work with the people that he worked with,
right,
to work in the building that he worked in. And at SCLC, they didn't throw anything away. So I know I sat in chairs that he sat in. I worked at a desk that he worked in.
Right.
His aura was still there, even though he was dead and gone. So
Right.
just to be there every day, to go to work where my hero had worked,
Yeah.
oh man, that was a jam. I loved it. This was doing another job. What got me into youth development work? I was working with the Clark County Health Department and created a program. Well, not created, but I operated a program dealing with teen pregnancy prevention focused on males. And Jane Fonda had just started her organization that dealing with teen pregnancy. And she was here in Athens, and people told her about me. And she invited me to come to a program at the Omni in Atlanta, which was CNN's tied to it.
Gotcha.
And I mean, she took care of me. She took care of me. So yeah,
okay,
that was.
Well, youth development seems to be one of your passions, one of your biggest passions.
Yeah.
Tell me what are the goals? What started that drive? Just how have you brought that vision from where you started to where it is now?
I'm trying to keep it clean, but no.
You don't have to.
Somebody asked me that a long time ago, and the reality is that the kids that I deal with today, I was them growing up. Like I said, my mother.
Okay.
My mother raised 3 boys by herself. I was the middle child. I was constantly told what I couldn't do, what I wouldn't be, that basically you ain't going to be, and I was constantly put down. Nobody believed in me. And I was fulfilling their vision. Then one day, I was in the 10th grade. My history teacher kept me after school because I had been cutting up in his class. I was failing his class. But while he had me there in his room, he started asking me questions about the subject matter. I was knocking out the answers left and right. And he's like, how come you don't do this on the test? And he breathed life into me. He breathed hope in me. He breathed, you can do it in me. And I never forgot that. And I like doing that for kids now.
It's an honorable thing. It's needed.
Yeah.
It's definitely needed.
Yeah.
You, I know in that battle, you still have bills. You still got things that you got to cover. Tell me what I'll start it, right? The way how I see it in politics and budgeting, city budgeting, things like that, because nonprofits, y'all all have to, what is it, RFPs and
request for
all that stuff.
All the jump through all these hoops. Yeah.
Trickle down economics seems to be the weirdest thing that I seen, but it's what it looks like it lives by, is that there's one organization that has all the money, and you guys might have to compete for that. And what I noticed was, like, for example, you guys had to do like a coalition of 5 organizations just to get the same amount of funding that one organization was getting, even though they weren't putting out nearly half the output or diverseness, that you guys were giving opportunity-wise. And I just feel like that's, we all know it. That's what the system is, And so I'm curious of your perspective, even with that stacked against you, because they can only breathe so much hope. With that stacked against you, how do you still make it operate? How do you still make this thing work? I mean, like, it don't have to be no clean answer. It's just,
But the real reality is, as one of my board members likes to say, you're doing God's work. So if you're doing what you're doing, not for yourself, but to serve others, to do what Jesus would have wanted us to do, and you're doing the work of God, then God will provide. And every morning I get up and I say, okay, God, this is your organization. What are you going to do today to keep it alive? Because I'd be doing something. If it was up to me, I'd be selling insurance.
Yeah.
I'd be doing something, making money.
Right.
So if you want me to do this, you got to keep it alive. And that doesn't mean I don't stress out and wonder where the money going to come from, but thus far, he has made it. He's made it possible. He's kept the doors open.
Right.
But you're right in terms of, and it's not just an Athens problem. This is a nationwide problem when it comes to minority-run nonprofit organizations. It's not that we can't do the work. It's that we don't have everything in place to compete to get the larger grants that the other people do. And even when we try to get it, because it's just like any other business relationship. This business is relational.
Mm.
So because I don't live on Chase Street or in that area or Cobham, I don't socialize with those people. You know, we don't have dinner together. We don't barbecue. I don't hang out with them. They don't hang out with me.
Right.
So that relationship isn't there that says, oh, okay, man, we're gonna break you off $100,000.
Right.
We got 20 for you.
Yeah. But their boy over here,
their boy over there
at the game on Sunday.
But we got 20 for you.
Right.
You know? But so
no, I mean I've had to deal with the trickle down economics too. I just I had one client, she wanted me to film some video for her. She had to wait for another nonprofit to approve her funding for her, and I was just like, so did you jump high enough? Like it seems like you can't do enough, even when you're trying to do some of the more modern work that's needed. And so that's just me giving y'all some shit. Sorry,
right.
But I definitely respect like the movement in the sense that these kids here in Athens, in the sense of media, where else do they go? Where else can they go to get media training and to get media experience? I know Clark Central has theirs, Cedar has theirs, but in the sense of just what's for us, not just what's for journalism, but what's for us, how do they get that experience? So I think what I want to ask now is like, what's the state of Black media like in Athens, if you were to, from your perspective?
Well, I don't think it's as strong as it needs to be. Years ago when WXAG first opened up back in the late 80s, 90s, I was their news director. And we covered everything. And so every morning before you went to work, we had a news broadcast, and we covered the news from a Black perspective. It was the city council meeting or the county commission meeting or the school board meeting or whatever other, but it was from our perspective. So we don't really have that now. And I'm not putting down anybody. I just don't think that we have a strong journalism presence from the Black community in Athens, or even from the Hispanic community. No minority community.
Yeah.
So it basically, we have Black talk shows. I think Hattie Lawson does a wonderful job informing people on her show on WXAG. But that's basically it.
So it means that there's space from some young creators. If they want to come, they could follow up.
Yeah. But they got to understand what journalism is.
Right.
We got a lot of young creators and influencers in Clark County, but are they really informing people? Are they educating people? Are they giving them information that's going to make a positive difference in their life, or at least give them information so they can make decisions out of as to which way they want to go?
Right.
Not pushing the fight or the drama, or the silliness that a lot of the
this
stuff.
This isn't the gossip show.
Yeah. Our people need. What did I say? Your people perish for lack of information.
Right.
Our people are perishing because they're not getting information that they need.
Yeah, and there's so much brain rot on the internet that they'll scroll for hours and not get anything from that, but be satisfied with it.
Mm-hmm.
It's like a McDonald's. It's like, you eat it, it feels good, but it's not fulfilling for your body.
Yeah, and not healthy.
Yeah. No, man.
So there's a lot of stuff out there that's our people are consuming from a media standpoint that is not healthy for us. It is not good for us. And so one of the things that we're trying to do with the kids on all the platforms that we have is teach them how to become positive influencers, how to look at the different issues that impact our community and put a youth spin on it so not only their peers can consume it and grow, but the adult population can do the same thing.
So in the sense of like bridging that gap between those two generations.
Yeah, and we're teaching them a job skill.
Yeah.
And the thing about journalism, the skills of being a journalist, the ability to write, to think, to work as a team, critical thinking, how to respond, because stuff happens. Those skills apply on any job.
You spent about 30 years plus on the radio.
Yes.
And the things that I see like today, because we were just kind of hitting on it, there are a lot of influencers today. But in the sense of journalism and media, real commercial media, what's the difference? What's needed to really do that job for that long?
Well,
versus what everybody else is trying to do now. Not to say nothing's wrong with it, but just.
Well, I think, and I'm not even going to point fingers at the young people because they don't even have the journalism skill training.
Right.
But I even look at a lot of the news shows that are on Fox and CNN and MSNBC, and I see people doing more influencing than educating and than informing. And in my 30 years of experience, I mean, it's natural that sometimes you're going to let your own personal feelings be known. But as a journalist, you want to try to be objective. And you want to present both sides of the story. And you want people to be influenced by their knowledge. Politically, it's kind of hard, especially if you're a black station. Then you kind of sway in people. But basically, I think my influence came from, one, exposing people to what was happening and letting the people who were doing it get on there and tell their story and letting the audience decide which way they wanted to go with it, not necessarily me telling them. So my influence was, I'm going to educate you.
Right.
And you can take it for what it's worth. And there were some shows where it was strictly me just talking, but that's different. But for the most part, you got to train people, not train, but educate people so they can take that information and make an informed decision. And that goes back to working with kids. Doing teen pregnancy. It's a decision-making process.
Right.
Look at the pros and the cons. Now you make a decision based off the information you got that you can live with.
Right. Makes sense. You think that in today's distribution platforms, I mean, I find it already kind of difficult. What's the difference between what you were doing back then and how well it worked versus somebody that might be starting up now, and them trying to break their voice out there? What do you feel like is probably more difficult for them?
Well, one, I have come to learn that different generations use different mechanisms. Years and years ago, before there was radio, it was strictly newspaper. Then radio and TV came along. So the mediums have always changed with the different generations. I just think there's too many platforms now on the digital, because any and everybody can decide they're going to pick up their phone, start recording stuff, and now all of a sudden I'm an informant. So there's too many platforms, and none of them, most of the people who are doing it, don't have any training, don't have any sense of what being a real journalist is about.
Right.
Basically, they gossipers.
Yeah. And it's funny, that's in me, when I started the magazine, doing that format, people always ask, why aren't you doing print? Why aren't you doing digital or this, that, and the third? And at the time, it might have been just a lack of, I'm only one man, but having that helped me understand what being a journalist, what my purpose was.
Mm-hmm.
In 2020, when the pandemic happened, I kind of learned, this is what I need to be doing now. I need to be telling people what's going on here, what the hospitals are doing here.
Yep.
It helped me understand what my role was. And you're right. You're right, 1,000% in the sense of like people just want to get up and just talk about the tea.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
They
don't want to talk about, budget meetings or city council meetings and things that go on, like that. I get it. It's not as trendy, but
but it's a heck of a lot more important.
The usefulness.
Yeah.
So yeah, man, what do you feel is going to be like this next, I guess, the upcoming future for Athens in the term of just where the media's headed, where the city's headed, funding, all that stuff? Like, where do you think Athens Black community is headed for how things are changing?
Is it changing? I mean, it's changing when you look at it from a housing standpoint. It's changing for the worse. We're getting forced out. And years ago, it must have been 20, maybe 30 years ago, there was a county manager, and this was when the whole issue of Athens poverty was really starting to surface. People were starting to talk about it. White folks were starting to talk about it. Before it wasn't big, but they started to talk about it. So I asked this county manager, who was a fairly conservative gentleman, what are you going to do about the poverty in Athens? So we're going to move all the poor people out. Here we are in 2025, and poor folks are getting moved out because they can't afford to live here.
Right. What do you think that's going to do in the sense of change as far as, is Athens going to be the same city as it was? Like,
interestingly enough, I had a conversation with some people, and they were talking about one of the things that makes Athens so unique is its diversity.
Right.
So I think if Athens loses its diversity, that's bad for Athens.
Right.
So we got to figure out a way how to lift all boats. We got to figure out a way how to reduce the poverty in Athens by creating job opportunities for everyone who lives in Athens, regardless of the color of their skin.
Right.
And it's easier said than done, because there's heavy lifting that has to be done on both sides of the fence. The people in position to put in the money and create those jobs have to do it. But the people that the jobs are and opportunities being created for, they got to make some changes too.
Right.
I had this conversation with some kids this week, and to put it mildly, I said, you guys going to have to learn how to code switch.
Yeah.
And they said, what? I say, embrace your culture. That's cool.
Yep.
But it's embracing your culture only going to get you where you want to go in life. And you got to be able to back over here.
Yep.
And how to deal over here.
Yeah.
Because that is the American way. That's the American way for us.
Right. You're not lying.
And if you ain't willing to do that, then you're going to have to be happy where you are, but don't be mad at anybody who's trying to go somewhere else.
Right.
I ain't going to be mad at you because that's what you want to do.
Right. You want to stay authentic.
Yeah. But don't be mad at me or anybody else that wants more. I remember when I first went to work was being interviewed for a job working with youth. And the question was asking me, because, here I gone to UGA, come from DC and all that, said, how are you going to work with these people when your culture is so different from theirs? I said, I come from the same culture they do. I just added some things to mine.
Yep.
And I can teach them how to do the same thing.
Yep. And it's a useful tool. As I said earlier, with the half education in public and private, I've learned that how to do something similar. But a prime example to show outside of me, the director of the movie Sinners, Mr. Coogler, he said, Ryan Coogler, he said that in the music side of the movie, he wanted the blues to be portrayed, but he loves Metallica. And he loves the song by One by Metallica. That was one of, I know so many Metallica songs on guitar, it's ridiculous. But I understood what he said in the context of, I wanted that contrast. I wanted it to be able to be relatable. And he didn't necessarily use direct Metallica reference, but it's what people, I can tell if it's like if you know, but the way how that was presented, you got to have that range as a Black creative. And I made a comment on something. I was like, as a Black man and as a Black creative, you need that depth. You need to know the cultural differences, so you can make a product that has that depth to where everybody can pull from it.
Yeah.
And it's a tool, man. If you're ashamed to use it, you're putting yourself in a box. So I think that is something that we do have to use more of. We can't all just be trying to be, in our own side of things. You have to go over here. And it's funny, I had one mentor tell me, he was like, and this ain't a slight, promise it's not a slight, but he was like, don't go from just East Athens to East Atlanta. He's like, get out of there. He's like, just how you went to North Athens, how you went to these different sides of Athens, you got to do that over there too. And so it's the same way for you. You grew up this way in DC, but you can still go over here and relate to these same Black folks and maybe even expand how that's operating over there. So it's a tool. You just got to use it.
Yeah. And we got to expose our children to more. If all I knew in life is what I saw as a kid growing up in DC, if I hadn't been exposed to what I was exposed to in that neighborhood was people fighting, blood on the streets every weekend, a lot of poverty, a lot of alcoholism, drugs, and all that stuff. My mother made sure that she exposed us to other things, or at least put us in with people who could expose us. We went to the New York World's Fair in 1964. We went to Toronto, Canada. Yeah, I mean, my mother made sure that we saw far more than what we saw in our neighborhood. And that she said, you can have these things. And, and we got to be able to tell kids they live, and again, not trying to put anybody down, but they live in our low-income neighborhoods who don't see a way out. There is a way out, but ain't nobody going to give it to you unless you work to get it.
Right.
And that means you got to go to school. You got to do your work. You got to want more. You can't be average.
Right. Right.
And us growing up in America, we already knew we couldn't be average. We always had to excel.
Go up on another level.
So what's the problem?
Yeah. You should be used to the fire at some point.
Yeah.
And speaking of fire and this, you took a lot of opportunities in a space where you wanted to develop yourself more. I remember I don't remember because I was a freaking baby. I might have been like 8 months old, but you ran in the Olympics. You ran the torch. You ran the torch. Carried the torch
In 1996.
Yeah, so
the Olympic torch.
Just a quick little flashback. So I never got the story about how that even happened.
To be honest with you, I don't know how it happened. The 1996, the Olympic torch, of course, the Olympics was in Atlanta. The Olympic flame landed in Los Angeles. And the tradition of the Olympics, the Olympic torch is the flame is carried across to to wherever the event was held in Greece, and they light the cauldron and the flame that starts the game. So it starts in LA. People start running it across the country. So what they did was they nominated community heroes. I believe it was Willie Hall who nominated me because of the work I was doing at that time, doing teen pregnancy prevention work with kids, as well as doing the radio stuff. So I guess, talk about being an influencer, doing my radio, and I wasn't doing it for me. I was doing it to help the community, but they recognized that and
put you out there.
They put me out there, and I get the letter and that, hey, we want you to carry the torch. You've been selected. Funny thing about that, they had a bunch of people running in Athens So they want to make me run it in LJ, Georgia. When I first came to Athens and did that internship, we went up to the LJ for a week. And we got off the van. I was the last person to walk into the hotel, and I was the only black person in the group. LJ was all white town. When I walked through the door, the woman behind the clerk looked up and said, "My God, you didn't tell me you was bringing no niggas with you." And I'm like, oh. So all that week in LJ, wherever we went, white folks was looking at me like, damn, what did you do up here?
Right.
So I told that story to the folks with the Olympics and told them, I am not going to LJ and run nothing. And they wanted me to run up there at night. I said,
oh, no.
That ain't happening. That ain't happening. So
right.
They had to change it so I could run it in Athens.
Yeah. Okay, I'm cool with that. That's crazy. I probably would have had to tell them the same thing because that's ridiculous. So you ran it. What was that experience like? I mean,
that was awesome because the streets were packed, and people were, cheering us on. It was a great, great experience. And I still had the torch. And I've taken it and I let little kids hold it and shared it with them and told them, about the Olympics, the whole experience. But just to share something with them. Again, exposing kids to something that normally they wouldn't get to see and feel and touch. And
it's empowering.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's, I'm glad we got to have this conversation, man. Before I let you go, I wanna hear. I'm gonna dive a little bit back into journalism. What's going on in Athens, man? Like, I mean, school district, Hooker just, he's leaving or resigning or already resigned. The county, the city commission. What do you, as a journalist, what are you paying attention to that just, pushes your reporting or how you're going about your content?
I've kind of shifted gears from the traditional journalist.
That's cool.
I look at
well, before you get there, start for that, even while you were working.
Okay. Yeah. But if I was a traditional journalist right now, I think the issue of housing has to be number one for us because we are being forced out. And that's sad. The other issue that has to be addressed is the undereducation of our children. And it's not that they can't get a good education in Clark County School District. They just aren't receiving it. One of the things I like about the Youth Reporters program, it's an after-school program. Mm-hmm. So I get to work with these kids. These kids are smart, but nobody is taking them aside like they took me aside in high school and say, hey, you can do this. You're capable. You got this going for yourself. You got that going for yourself. I don't see enough of that happening. And I'm not blaming the school system. The school system is trying to check off all these dots that are mandated by the federal and state government.
Yeah.
And they're doing things that a school system shouldn't even be doing.
Right.
A lot of stuff we ask of the school system is not even in their wheelhouse.
Right. They're not supposed to be raising their kids.
Yeah. And so as a community, we got to do more to help the school system. But the fact that our children aren't being educated well enough or aren't getting the education, aren't hungry for the education like they should be. What used to tick me off when I worked for the school district and was doing the graduation stuff was seeing that the Hispanic kids were coming to Athens, not even speaking the language, but graduating at a higher rate than the black kids that had been born here. What was up with that?
Right.
And it's all about hunger. It's all about desire. It's all about realizing that this education is going to get me where I want to go.
Right.
And
it does.
It does. If you want to escape where you are, you ain't happy where you are in poverty, you better learn something and learn it well and move forward.
Yeah. In my different, experiences of school, like education systems from private to public, I learned graphic design and like magazine layout in public school.
Mm-hmm.
I learned a lot more on my sales side, even just having more social engagement on the public school side. Mm-hmm. So there are tools there. There are a lot of tools in the education system that you just got to know which ones to use. And that's definitely something I think, but back to the
one last thing that as a journalist,
that's what
that's about to happen is the mayor's race.
Yeah, I just saw this morning.
Yeah, so Tim Denson is going to run.
Yep.
We presume that Dexter Fisher is going to run.
Yep.
I've heard, there'll probably be some other people that are going to run, but that's going to be interesting to see how that turns out. I see it right now as a race really between Dexter and Tim.
Yeah.
And it's going to boil down to, it's really going to boil down to black vote, which way they decide to go. I think the progressive side of Athens is definitely going to go with Tim. The more conservative side of Athens will support Dexter. So where do we go?
Right.
There's never been a black mayor. There's been some black folks run.
Yeah.
But there's never been one elected.
Yeah, we've had Harry Sims, one of the longest commissioners.
Charles Mack was the first one that I remember running for the position. But realistically at that time, the way everything was drawn up, they didn't really have a realistic chance to win.
Right.
When I look at Athens, Clarke County now, I think that the possibility of Dexter winning is greater than it has ever been for a black person.
Right. And while we're on that, I'll go back to when Harry was running for office. That was kind of what helped me started Highlight, because I noticed that some of the local outlets were just reporting on him. They didn't actually allow him to speak for himself.
Mm-hmm.
And that was something that I feel like, how are we going to be? Because to me, Harry wasn't a Republican. At least I didn't see him in that light. Same thing with Dexter. I don't think even in this space or in the city, we label them Democrat, Republican for office. So it's just like, I don't see, more conservatives might vote for him, but that doesn't mean he's a Republican.
No, it just means that he has a much more conservative train of thought than a progressive would. And that's really what it is. It's not Democrat or Republican because it's a nonpartisan race.
Yeah.
But it is progressive versus moderate versus conservative.
Right.
And here you can't really be an all-out conservative and think you're going to win anything.
Yeah, exactly.
So you're a moderate or progressive.
Right.
Is what it's going to take to win here.
I just feel like, we tend to always go with, we try to make it red and blue.
Mm-hmm.
And then we're like, if this guy's on that side, we don't like him. But it's not always that way. And I'm hoping that people have that approach this time, because they threw the stones at Harry.
Yeah. One of the sad things, back when Doc Eldridge was the mayor, and it came out that Doc was a Republican. Mm-hmm. So he didn't win re-election. But Doc was really one of the better mayors that we had in this community, but he only got one term.
Tell me why you feel, what did he bring to the table that made him so good? Just curious.
One, he listened. And he responded to your concerns. When one day I was talking to Doc and told him, Doc, if I go to the courthouse, I go to the county manager's office, I don't see anybody look like me. Then I know there are people that look like me there. Not just in secretarial positions, but people in decision-making positions.
Yes.
When Doc was in office, the black men of Athens decided we were going to try to have a football classic. Doc gave us $10,000. I know no other mayor that did that to try to do something to uplift black culture in Clarke County.
Right. And that's the thing, I tell people we're missing the moments, and I start with REM because they used to make music moments, but stuff like that, we need to be making our own culture through those moments again. And there are people that have ideas that are just like that, a football classic, a car show, something that can inform or layer nonprofits, community, things like that, so we can have our own space and we can feel, welcome in what's going on here. So that's something that we'll have to save that conversation. But I think, we need those moments back so people can have that hunger of like, oh, I have pride in being here from Athens.
Yeah.
Not trying to leave and go. Now, I'm cool. If you want to go explore the country, see the world, do your thing.
Well, I think it is great to get away and come back and bring back something that you learn that can make this a better community. But so many of our people leave Athens because they don't think they're ever going to have an opportunity here. They got to go somewhere else to have the opportunity. And so you were asking earlier about what's going to happen. If we don't create opportunities for more native-born Athenians to prosper and thrive in this community, then we're going to lose a whole host of talent that could make this a better place to live.
Right. Well, Uncle Rick, I'm very thankful to have you on the show. I know we'll have you come back sooner or later. If there's anything I can do, you already know where to find me.
Yeah, I do.
And
got you
yeah, yeah, right. Is there anything you want to tell my audience as far as just how to contact you, or how to get involved with you, or anything that you want to leave out before we close things up?
Well, I'll give everyone our email address, which is educationmatters1470@gmail, and you can hit us up there, get more information about what we do. I'm going to say this, whether it's Black media or Black-run nonprofit organizations, these organizations exist to benefit our communities. But we cannot depend solely on the generosity of people who aren't of our hue to support us. As a community, we got support what's for us, by us.
Mm-hmm.
We had to step up and be more financial contributors to the work that Lamont is doing, to the work of other small Black-run nonprofits that are doing, because we're doing great work, but we're struggling to survive. And it's not about making me rich, it's about enriching our community. It's about enriching the children of our community. So we need your dollars.
Right.
And I'm gonna give you a quick way, the easy way to do it. If you got a Kroger Plus card, you can go in and set up your account in Kroger. They have a section in there about community development or community giving. Go in, scroll in, look for the Athens Clark County High School Completion Initiative, or ACC High School Completion Initiative, and sign up for us. Okay. And every time you spend money at Kroger, it ain't a lot of money,
right?
But they'll break off a piece and send it to us.
Right.
So even if you don't want to give us some money out your pocket, go buy your groceries and let Kroger give it to us.
Right, right. Please do. And you know what, before we go, because I want to dive into this, because this is probably the most important topic. I'm glad I didn't forget this. I want you to talk a little bit about men's health and Black men's health, and how your journey, things that you've experienced recently, if you're comfortable with speaking about it, and kind of just what can you share from your experience?
Oh man, well, I had a 2-year struggle or battle with prostate cancer, and I'm still, in fact, in 3 weeks I got to go back and get a follow-up. Hopefully everything is cool. But it is something that I'm happy to talk about, and we'll talk to anybody about what that journey is like, and make people feel a little bit more at ease about it. But please, gentlemen, PSA check on the regular. If you they can say at 45, but if you're a Black man, if you're at 40, you need to be getting it checked. In September, and hopefully we can come back before then, September the 20th, the Athens Alumni Chapter, Kappa Alpha Psi, is going to have a prostate cancer awareness summit. It's going to be at Timothy Baptist Church, so be on the lookout for information on that. But put it on your calendar. Georgia's not playing anywhere that day, so there's no excuse not to come.
What would you want to tell some of the kids that might be listening, that want to, are intrigued about journalism but don't know, and kind of how you can maybe help them get started on that path?
Well, first of all, develop a like for reading. The best way to learn how to write is to read. So you got to develop a fondness for reading. I don't care what you read, just read. But if you're interested in pursuing it more, and it's not just being a writer or not, so it's about the whole film. It's doing what Brother Carson is doing here. Just reach out and ask. Our phone number at the office is 706-850-2626. Give us a call. and let us help you. The biggest thing about life is you got to have the will. Everybody's coachable if they got the will. If you ain't willing,
nothing's possible.
Nothing's possible.
Well, what in regards of what they can get involved with you, what are the different options?
Well, again, we work with kids from grades 3 to 12.
Okay.
So you can get in as a youth reporter. You can get in with the Athens pupils, with the news broadcast, the radio show. I mean, we'll train you, and you can get in where you fit in.
Right.
And if you don't fit in, we'll create what you need, because actually it's much more to it than what you see on the camera. There's a lot of jobs behind the scenes that nobody talks about. Mm-hmm. And in the film industry, they need carpenters, they need electricians, they need set design, they need all types of things.
Right.
So it's not just in front of the camera or behind the mic.
Right.
There's money to be made in all types of areas that nobody knows about.
Right.
We're willing to show you how to get into all of that.
Right. Well, I'm glad to have you on, man. I'll say too that they do have some new programming that if you're wanting to get into videography, you can get a whole, you can get education and things that will teach you how to edit a video, film a video, things like that. So please make sure y'all reach out to him. Uncle Rick, I appreciate you for coming on, man. This was awesome.
My pleasure. I enjoyed it.
Overdue, man.
I was scared, man. I ain't got to answer questions, man. I read I ask them. But anyway, it was good. Thank you. You did a good job.
Awesome, man. I appreciate it. We're gonna keep it going. I had good ilk in front of me. I've been watching. All right, y'all. Thanks for tuning in to the highlight, man. I'll see y'all next episode. Take care.